My grandfather kept a plant by the back step that he never once bought seed for. Not in all the years I knew him. It just came up, every spring, same corner of the same bed, thick as a blanket, and he'd stand there with his coffee looking at it like it was an old friend come back around. I asked him once where it came from. He said his own grandfather planted it, and his grandfather before that, and near as anybody could tell, nobody had put a seed in that ground on purpose in about 100 years. It just kept coming. That was the first time I understood that some things, if you do them right, you only have to do once. I've been thinking about that plant a good deal lately. People spend money now on little gold pills in a bottle, fish oil they call it, for the Omega-3, for the heart and the joints and the mind. My grandfather never bought a pill in his life. He grew a plant whose seed runs richer in that same Omega-3 than any fish that ever swam, more than the flax he grew in the North Field, more than anything you'll find on a shelf. And he never paid a cent for it after the first planting, which he didn't do either. His grandfather did. That's the whole secret of it, and I want to tell you about it slow, the way it was told to me. The plant has a good many names, depending on who's holding it. Some folks call it shiso, some call it perilla. Across the water they've called it by other names for longer than we've had a country to name things in. Doesn't much matter what you call it. What matters is what it does, and what it does is come back, year after year, without asking. My grandfather used to say a good seed is a promise, and this one keeps its promise longer than most men keep theirs. Now I've watched folks try to garden the hard way, buying flats every May, tilling the same ground raw every year, fighting the weather, fighting the soil, starting from nothing each spring like the last year never happened. And I understand it. There's a pride in the fresh start. But my grandfather taught me different. He taught me that the land wants to work if you'll let it, and that the patient man plants once and harvests for a lifetime. This plant is the proof of that teaching. You put it in the ground one time, done right, and it becomes less a garden and more a part of the place. Like the well, like the fence line. It's just there. Let me tell you what's in it, because it's a wonder, though I'll say it plain and not make a sermon of it. The seed of this plant, when you press it, runs better than half oil by weight, and most of that oil is the very thing people are chasing in those bottles. The green leaf itself carries more of what a body needs than the spinach or the kale you'll hear so much about. Good protein in it. Iron and lime for the bones. My grandmother knew none of the fine words for it. She just knew that when somebody in the house had a cough that wouldn't quit, or a stomach that had gone sour, she'd send a child out to fetch a handful of those leaves. Cleared the chest. Settled the belly. She learned it from her own mother, and I never once saw it fail to bring some comfort. The words for why came later, from other people. The knowing came first, and it came through the hands. There was a summer must have been near 40 years back now, maybe a little more when the allergies took me bad. Eyes running, nose stopped up, miserable through the whole hay season. My grandfather didn't say much about it. He just started putting those leaves in with my supper, wrapped around a bit of meat the way they do it, and by the worst of the pollen I was breathing easier than I had in years. I can't tell you the mechanism of the thing. I only know what I lived, and I've come to trust what I've lived over what I've been told most days. The old physicians across the sea wrote this plant down more than 1,000 years ago, set it in their books for the chest and the blood and the stomach, the same troubles my grandmother used it for without ever seeing those books. That's the part that stays with me. Two people, an ocean and 1,000 years apart, reaching for the same green leaf for the same aches. That's not learning. That's something older than learning. That's the plant telling the truth to anybody with the patience to listen. For a long spell in this country, though, we forgot. Or we were made to forget, which is a sadder thing. There were families here who grew this plant faithful for 30 years and more, saved the seed every autumn, pressed the oil in the deep of winter, ate the leaf fresh all summer long, kept the old way alive on new ground, and then they were taken off their land. Not by drought and not by blight, by men and papers, carried away from their gardens, and the crops left standing in the dirt for strangers to harvest. When those families came home, shattered, starting over with empty hands, they did not replant it. The heart for it was gone. And so the knowing went quiet in this country for a long while. But here is the thing my grandfather understood, and it's a comfort to me still. You can take a man off his land. You can't take the seed out of the ground. That plant they stopped growing didn't die when they stopped. It slipped out of the gardens and into the ditches and the roadsides, and it spread, county by county, state by state, keeping itself alive through no help from anybody. Waiting, Somebody plants a thing with love once, and even after the people are gone and the knowing is scattered, the plant remembers. It just keeps its promise, quiet, in the low places by the road, until somebody comes along who recognizes an old friend. Now half the world over, folks never forgot it all. They wrap that leaf around their grilled meat still, every week, same as always. Pickle it in garlic, press the seed for oil the way their grandmothers did. It was only here we called it a weed and reached for the poison. Which tells you less about the plant, I think, than it does about us, and how quick we are to spray what we've forgotten how to use. Let me tell you how to grow it, because it's near the simplest thing I know, and my grandfather could have done it in the time it takes to fill a bucket. You take the seed and you soak it in water a day before you plant, just overnight and into the next morning. Then you scatter it right on top of the soil, a patch of ground, a bucket, an old wash tub, whatever you've got with a bit of dirt in it. Don't bury it. That's the one mistake folks make. The seed wants light to wake up, so you leave it sitting on the surface, just pressed and gentle. Inside of a week to 3 weeks, up they come. And after that first month, the plant makes its peace with wherever you've put it. Takes the rain that falls. Asks for near nothing. My grandfather watered his the first few weeks and then, far as I ever saw, left it entirely alone for the rest of his life. You cut the leaves all summer. Eat them fresh off the plant. Wrap them around your meat. Drop them in the soup. Dry a good bundle for winter tea when the garden's under snow. And here's the part that matters most. The part that turns a garden plant into something more like an inheritance. At the tail of the season, you let a few of the plants go to flower. You leave them be. Let them make their seed heads and let those heads dry right on the stalk. Come a good wind, they'll shatter and sow themselves back into the ground. And you never lift a finger. What you've got then isn't a plant you tend. It's a thing that tends itself and returns to you every spring without being asked. Same as that patch by my grandfather's back step. Plant it one time. It feeds you the rest of your days and your children's days after, if they've the sense to leave the corner alone. If it's the oil you're after, you let the seed heads come full ripe in the autumn. Dry them all the way through till they rattle. Then you press them cold in any hand press a man can turn nothing fancy, nothing you need a company for. The oil comes out gold, and it'll keep near a year in a dark glass jar down in the cellar where it's cool. What's left after pressing, that dry cake of seed, you give to the hens or you turn it into the compost. Nothing's wasted. My grandfather never wasted a thing in his life, and he'd have been ashamed to. The whole plant gives, root to seed, and gives again the next year, and the year after that. I think about the arithmetic of it sometimes, sitting on the porch of an evening. A man could press a year's worth of that good oil in a single afternoon, with a tool he'd buy once and hand down to his boy. No bottles to buy, no shelf to visit, no money leaving his pocket month after month for a thing that grows in the ditch for free. And I understand now why we were steered away from it. There's no selling a plant that reseeds itself. You can't put a price on a promise that keeps itself. The thing was too honest to make anybody rich, and so we were taught to call it a weed and pull it up. But my grandfather knew. And his grandfather knew. And now you know. Which is the whole reason I've sat here and told it to you the long way instead of the short. This isn't a new thing I'm giving you. It's an old thing. Come back around, the way old things do if you'll have patience with them. If sitting here with an old man remembering his grandfather's garden has been worth your while, I'd take it kindly if you'd subscribe, and stay on a while yet. There's more of these come back to me than I've had the chance to tell, and I mean to tell them. One at a time, slow, the way they ought to be told. And I'll ask you something before I go, because I'd like to know. Was there a plant in your grandmother's garden, or your grandfather's, that just kept coming up every year? One nobody could remember planting? Tell me about it down below. Tell me its name if you knew it, or tell me you never did. I've a feeling more of us carry one of those than we know, waiting in the corner of some old bed, keeping its promise, the way this one kept mine. I still walk out past that back step when I'm home. The house has changed hands more than once. But the plant's still there, thick as a blanket, same corner, coming up faithful for a man who's been gone a long time now. My grandfather planted a great many things in his life. Most of them I had to plant again. But not that one. That one he only had to do once. And every spring it comes up green. And I stand there with my coffee, and for a minute he's not gone at all.